Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining. I'm Nelson Araújo, and I work with Google.
Hi, my name is JJ Asgar. I work for Chef on the Strategic Technical Alliance team.
So we are here today to give you a hands-on demonstration of what you can do with the Google Cloud and Chef when we put them together.
We're going to attempt to try to have this as a little bit more as a conversation to kind of show what you can do to work with this. We're going to be going over some basic Chef, some basic GCP usage, and we'll be moving forward. It's going to be fun.
So we have already our first question of the audience. Somebody's asking if these will be available later. He can't be to the end, but yes. In the same link, the video with all the slides and our voices will be available anytime after we're done.
And just to reiterate, please don't hesitate to ask questions during this. We want this to be a nice conversation and kind of move forward. So you want to go on, Nelson?
Yeah. So before we start, I want to get a little primer about the Google Cloud Platform and what kind of things customers can do with it. So we want to have our workloads being easy to manage and fast and reliable. So we heard a lot of these over time, and then we decided to tackle the problem. So Google is providing the Google Cloud to customer, and the Google Cloud uses the same infrastructure that Google uses for its own service. So when you hear me say, hey, we can put a load and balancer to split your traffic through, it's the same load and balancer that serves YouTube, Gmail, and so on. So we don't have two infrastructures, one for us and one for the customer.
It's pretty neat.
In terms of networking, which is super important if you want a good experience for your customer, Google invests constantly and heavily on building the most interconnected network. The network does not just connect between peers and ISPs and infrastructure, but also there are points closer to the customers where you can actually cache your content, and there are a lot of options you can to make your content available faster to the customers. So you can use a CDN. When you use global load and balancers, you can do traffic based on geographical locations. There are a lot of knobs that if you want to build a sophisticated application, you can actually tune. And in terms of networking, which is something is important, like the Google Fiber is fast. Like I say, like you always have to qualify what fast means. Is you can get gigabit style networking between your machines, between your applications, and that gets sent down to the users. So again, the same network that allows us to stream YouTube non-stop to everybody is going to be used for yourself. I'm just brushing through those. This is not a marketing presentation. It's not a sales speech. I'm just giving you a quick primer for whoever is new to the cloud. And Google provides a slew of services that goes from the normal, I need your machine to put my code in, or I need a hosted or container, all the way through data analytics, machine learning, and so on and so forth. You can learn more about that at cloud.google.com. Like I said, we have no spend too much time of our webinar this because we want to get hands-on on that. One thing is important is when you need help, there are obviously not just all the documentation and regarding, but also we are starting this engineer-to-engineer support. So if you need high-touch, dedicated and qualified support, you can actually get that directly from Google and from the partners that we have. And I think that's my last slide on the marketing thing is Google is building something that is reliable, fast, but also cost-effective. This slide is already outdated. I just noticed Google now charge you per second. So if you have like workloads that you need to bring up and down quickly, or like for a short burst, let's say you need to run an analysis on some data, you're not going to round it to hour, and then if you need to run 1,000 machines, you don't run for 1,000 hours. You can run for 1,000 seconds now.
Oh, wow.
Right? So this will help you have your bill much more in line, and doesn't need to make you start thinking of how you have to group your workload so you can maximize the use of the machine. Like all this overhead goes away. You bring it up when you need, tear it down when you need, and the billing will just follow. Right. If you want to get started, we want you to try first. So you can get $300 in credit, so you can use all the Google infrastructure, so you can see for yourself. So you can go to cloud.google.com/free. Also, if you use the link will be available at the webinar, also at the video. You get an extra 200, you can apply for it. And if you are a startup, Google has a program for startups where you can get extra resources like in support, in credits, or anything else the startup needs to be successful.
Cool. Thanks, Nelson. So this is my chance to do my networking slides now. So if you don't know, Chef is an automation platform that allows you to automate building out infrastructures. We have other products also, which is not this slide, but the next one, where we are planning on creating a demo here of being able to use our automation platform to be able to provision machines in an efficient manner that works for it. As you can see, we have some huge name customers, including Facebook, GE, and Citi, that use us on a daily basis to create repeatable infrastructures that makes life significantly better for them. We have a platform, our whole suite of products is called Chef Automate. We're based off of 3 open source products, Chef, Habitat, and Inspect. On this presentation, we'll be focusing mainly on Chef. I can allude to the other products, but I don't want to muddy the waters for the conversation. Chef right here will be leveraging to be able to call out to GCP to do some really interesting, awesome things. If you want to look at more of the larger suite, go to chef.io, and then it is all right there. So as I read these bullet points, because that's what I should do, with the advantages of GCP and the high speed and the ability to do the things, then there's a natural marriage between Chef and GCP. Being able to leverage repeatability, your resources to be able to call out to GCP, to ask for the exact things you need, to be able to create exactly what you want every single time, allows for unbelievable confidence in your systems. What we are trying to do, we're trying to make your lives as engineers more delightful, and we believe that this integration that we are going to demo today is one of the steps towards this.
Yeah, one of the things I want to point it out is the amount of resources we have today that are already available at the Chef supermarket that can use is just the tip of the iceberg. The goal that Google has is to provide support for the entire Google Cloud platform using Chef. So right now we have support for 5 products there that you can use right now. But like I said, we are going to keep adding more, and we are going to be doing that in a way that the experience for all of them is actually the same. That's one thing that's important. If you learn one cookbook from Google, you know them all, because they behave the same, they have the same expectations, they authenticate the same way. It's all exactly the same. So this reduces the learning curve like greatly, because one of the things you need sometimes to do is to train your staff and make sure you can have everybody on the same page. So this will really simplify this experience. And because we are covering it, we want to cover every single GCP feature. So if there is a node that you can tweak somewhere in the Google Cloud platform, you are going to be able to do that using Chef.
And to play off of this too, as our blog posts and announcements went out 2 weeks ago, This is a paradigm that we're hoping that other cloud providers go down too, because this is superior because it is coming directly from the actual producer of the cloud. If you've noticed, inside the supermarket, we have some of these same types of things, but they're all reverse engineered. To actually have it coming from the cloud provider, this one being GCP, we will get the best and the best integration possible, which is just baller, for lack of a better term. It's to be able to say that I'm sitting here with Nelson from Google to be able to do this. This will just make the idea of leveraging GCP with Chef that much better.
Yeah, and that's another thing that is also part of our plan, is instead of launching a product and say, you community, go figure it out, and like you're saying, reverse engineer, good luck.
Yep.
We are also trying to get to a point where when new products come along, like when an announcement of a new product, I don't know, self-driving cars,
Sure. There you go.
something like that, there will be, if not at the time of the launch, but as close as possible, if not like that, support for you to manage that new system using Chef. Right? So we are not there yet. We are working towards that. Right now, we are covering whatever was released already. But once we do that, our goal is everything new, any new change, you don't have to go figure it out by yourself. It'll be like, we will say, hey, here it is, all you need to manage these new products that we are, I don't know, putting beta right now. Before you have to figure it out yourself.
So just to touch on the approval process and our Chef Partner Cookbook program, we have some Chef Cookbooks that go through a rigorous best practices. And we have walked the GCP Cookbooks through this same thing and badged them on our supermarket, which we can throw that link in to the at the end of this presentation so everyone can see it. We have a standard list, and GCP walked through the whole process to work with it. It works directly with Chef Automate, so our whole suite of products out there, to be able to drive this. We want to make sure this is clear that it is the best practices of what we are looking to do from Chef and also from Google. Okay, we're gonna have some fun now, aren't we?
Yeah. So this will be like all the slides mostly are done. I want to make this as hands-on as possible. So let's get started. So let's understand what you're trying to do here. So our goal is, this is getting started. So I want to be on Google using Chef as fast as I can. But I don't have anything. I'm actually starting from the ground up. I don't even have a machine where to run my Chef client yet. The only thing I have here that I need to get this started are a few things, right? So I need, obviously, a Google Cloud Platform account, and for this case, I created a project on it, a service account, which I'm going through details soon, but basically the service account is the key that allows Chef to talk to Google and convince Google that you have the privileges to do the operations. You don't want anyone to go changing your stuff. So basically, think of that as
a delegate? Huh? A delegate would be a good word for it?
Yeah, I was going to say like a supersized password, but but yes, it's kind of a private key. Another thing you have to do is Google all the stuff start disabled by default, so you don't accidentally start using them and get in charge or something. So for every service you want to use, you go and enable the APIs. So for this demo, we are going to be using compute and DNS. So I already did that because it takes a few minutes. You don't want to have everybody here waiting for a thing to spin. And because I want my application to be live, I have a DNS zone already set. The reason I'm not creating the zone right now, which I can using the Cookbooks can manage DNS zones, is I need to hook the DNS zone to the parent DNS. And that takes some time to propagate, but the DNS zone is empty. We're going to see how that goes. And I'm using the Cookbooks to manage the DNS zone. By all means, if you can even create your zone from the ground up. It's just for the sake of the timing here, I'm not going to do that one thing. So let's get started. I'll get to what those things are later. So the thing is, like I said, I want my application to be live, so it will be available at the end to this link, the www.chef-webinar1.graphic.cloudnativeapp.com. So if you go right now, it's not working because there's nothing there, but you can keep refreshing as we do this if you want to see how fast you can actually get this live to everybody else. Okay, so let's go to the screen to see what we have here. So like I said, I have a chef server. The chef server have my cookbook installed from my application. So imagine that if I have my application running, let's say on my local data center or in my servers on premise, I already have the cookbooks to set my application. So that is, I'll call your chef things everybody already knows how to do. And to integrate with the clouds, this can be done separately. What I want to do is bring all of that together and then deploy that application into the cloud. So, like I said, I have nothing, so I'm going to even create a machine right now where I'm going to do all that work. So I'm going to call the.
I'm going to just jump in real quick and say that even though Nelson has a chef server on his infrastructure right now, there's no reason why this wouldn't work also with Hosted Chef. So if you're a Hosted Chef customer, that is also another option. But for brevity's sake, we are going to be using a already created chef server.
Yeah, another thing is everything I'm doing in this machine is just for showing I can start really blank, but the cookbooks run from anywhere. It doesn't need to be running on Google itself. You can run that on your laptop for all practical purposes. You can run from your workstation at work. Works even from home if you need to do some quick support. So it really doesn't matter where the cookbook runs. Like I said, this is just for dramatic effects. So I can show you that from nothing, I can actually spin everything.
I have to admit, it was pretty cool when, as we were developing this, to be able, instead of, as you see, Nelson clicking through all these windows, I could just run one command and have an instance up and running inside of GCP from one command, which is really nice. That is, and I can tweak it by using the chef resources.
Yeah, we can't just do that right now because of the chicken and egg problem. It's that I have nothing, but once I have my chef client installed, I can start even deploying the environment myself, right? So like I said, this machine is empty. It's running for 0 minutes. And one thing we need to bring to this machine is the private key that I need to authenticate. So I have this on another machine. That's the only thing I'm going to do outside that machine, which is to transfer my key to that machine. Let's see. You thought that was going to work. No, I'm not going to do this yet. So trust me, inside that thing there is a okay, so now let's get our copy of chef. Like I said, I'm going to start this process and then I'll go back and explain everything that's happening. I'm just going to let it run so we can go and see what's going on. So I'm going to install chef on this machine so I can actually start running cookbooks and use the knife commands. The cookbooks I'm using here, even the ones for the webinar, the one that has the app, has the infrastructure, they are also on the supermarket. We're going to put the link at the end on the webinar itself. If you want to rerun everything I'm doing here yourself, there are documentation of how to do all of this I'm doing in the GitHub repo that has all of this. So by all means, if you want to practice, this would be a good way for you to do that. So we need Git as well. So those are the only two things I need to install here to get going. So install chef itself and Git.
The best DVCS out there, correct?
Do you think? Yes. Okay. So now back to user. Another thing is the cookbooks do not require admin privileges. So you can run as a regular user. You can run that on your CI environment. You can run this in a hosted service. It really does not need. So now let's get going. So create a folder for our cookbooks.
As Nelson's doing this, I just want to open up to questions. If anyone has any questions as he's typing along, just to make sure, we still have people out there listening to us. I'm a Pisces, if anyone's curious.
Okay, so now we have our cookbook set up, and we are going to download from the supermarket the cookbook that we are going to run to build everything. So like I said, this cookbook has the dependencies. It brings the other cookbook that is the application cookbook, and also brings the necessary Google Cloud cookbooks. It's a simple dependency list in a cookbook. Like there is nothing special here that Google is doing different. So it's straight chef. So if you're a chef, familiar to chef, these should be all very straightforward to the way you do. So like I said, we have those cookbooks. So now, for me to get this going, I'm just going to apply a recipe. So like I said, we are going back and going to explain everything that's happening here. It just takes a minute or two for the thing to get set up, so we can do this in parallel. So this recipe that I'm running right now is using the Google Cookbooks to interact with the Google Cloud and set the machine and the infrastructure that we will actually do the survey. So because there is, although the IPs and the DNS will become static eventually, before I actually request them, I don't know what they are. There is no hard code in here or anything. I can actually, if I keep rerunning this in different projects or with different names, they can live side by side. The important thing here is everything that's dynamic, you can also get dynamically from the cloud. So that's where the IP address that's in there, say, set target comes from. If I run again, I get another one, but for my practical purpose, I really don't care. Like the cookbooks takes care of all that. Okay, so let's go back to the slide so I can explain how my application actually works. So my application is a web application written in PHP, and I want to serve that in that www, which right now should be offline. Yes, no, it should be going. And I want to register that to my DNS, and to do that, I better my IP address don't keep changing. So for that, Google has a service that you can request IP address. They can be global, they can be regional. You can choose how you are locating them. So I allocate one of those. I give that IP address to the machine and say, hey, machine, you're going to respond to that address. And with the same address, I go back to the DNS and I register my www address with that DNS. So when the machine starts, I'm starting completely from empty here. So the machine starts on a vanilla CentOS that's provided by Google. So that means it takes a minute or two. For now, it's probably done. So if you go back to that, let's just see how that looks. So if you go back here to the page and refresh, you can see that it's actually serving my content. And you can see here the time, although it's in unit time, is actually, my PHP is actually changing the time.
Can I go ahead and just point some things out about this site real quick?
You can.
So as you notice here, we're actually pulling metadata directly from GCP using OHI, where we're actually reaching out and pulling out that information. So that all that data is made on the fly as this is written. So we actually can pull directly from GCP for specific information. So you can programmatically write your cookbooks to know if, for instance, your CPU architecture is different, that you choose for one specific thing to do different things and make different choices. This is only just a touch of the information, but I just wanted to make sure that this was obvious to people reading this or watching this to see that this information is available.
Yeah, and that information is all available on the Chef server. When we open the Chef server, I will point to where they are. But there is a lot of information about the environment. We just pull a few of the things that you can see in green. And the interesting thing here is, although I can also get the data dynamically from the machine, we chose in the cookbook to actually write the HTML with that data hard-coded in, just to show we can do a template that actually leverages that data even before the machine gets configured. But one might choose to fetch that information on the fly. Google provides what we call metadata server. And from the metadata server, you can just query an endpoint, and then you can grab all that data on the fly. Like I said, we just put that on a template so you can actually see that going. So just so we can go back here. So when the machine starts empty, so like I said, although this was super fast, it was not deployed like in 1 second or 2 seconds, because the machine had to install Chef itself, has to go connect to the Chef server, download the cookbooks, do a lot of things that, if you're concerned with time to deploy, which in some cases, if you're using instance groups or other things to scale automatically, it probably should not be a big deal. But if it is, you can speed it up with playing some optimizations. Like you can create preset images with stuff you have pre-baked. Let's say it takes 5 minutes to bring your application data. Instead of every machine takes those 5 minutes, you can offline build your image, what we call a template for the machine, with, let's say, version of right now of all that data, and then you can use the Chef later to bring all the updates you need. So you're basically doing just a delta from the time you create the template, and that can be for software, for settings, for the data itself. So the Chef server can play an active role of just bringing exactly the light touch you need to make this fast.
So the difference between a golden and a wet image, where a wet image is almost, and then the gold image is where Chef comes in and makes it to the point where it should be ready for production?
Yes.
Awesome.
Or if you like I did here, you can start completely from scratch. Right? So we are pulling some things from the cloud storage, namely a bootstrap script to do all that. So you can you see this bootstrap script there as well. Like I said, we're using 2 cookbooks for that. We're going to go into detail. And if you want to install and do yourself anything Google Cloud, there is a cookbook for that. The cookbook called Google Cloud installs every single Google Cloud product. But if you want like a minimalistic light touch, only want to manage products extra Google, we separated every product in their own cookbook. If you want like just SQL, you can install the Google G SQL instead and just bring SQL. We will not have anything related. It's up to you to decide those. So let's take a look how this was put together. Like you're seeing in the Chef server.
So as you can see here, this is the node checked in to the Chef server that he created. The information that we have are through node attributes here. As you can see, we have a ton of data. But what I wanted to highlight is the GCE data here, where you can pull in actual information about the project or the instance specifically. We don't want to show keys, do we?
Those are public.
Oh, those are public. That's fine. That's fine. But as you can see, we have a whole slew of information that we can pull in and be able to programmatically allow your machine to figure out where it needs to go and what it needs to do. So as you are moving towards using the GCP infrastructure, if you have this stuff from the get-go, it makes your life significantly better in the long run. You can also just continue seeing from the machine. You can specifically do CPU type and all that. There's a link to OHI also. It is unbelievably powerful. It's unfortunate that most people don't leverage it as much as they should, and I wanted to make sure it was highlighted here. And as you can see, we have some other useful information here, including the last time it checked in and things like that, so you have a continual way to know what's going on.
Yeah, and also you can see here in the run list, I applied my app cookbook to that machine, right? So if you bring another machine, it will be completely isolated, but basically going forward now, Chef can actually manage this. So all these attributes that you're talking about, I'll show them where in the template they are. So if we go to the cookbook, so the cookbook that is in place there. So
Maybe. There we go.
So this was the PHP application that was shown before, mostly fluff. But the part that is important is actually like here. So for example, here is using OHI to write the host name. So when you say here, hey, my hello from this. So this is actually using OHI to do that, right? So like I said, these will generate the HTML with that data directly. So you can actually see that also if we set it to the machine. So we can look at that. And while that one loads, let's take a look what the cookbook actually do. So the cookbook here that you want to highlight is the info cookbook, where I actually have the recipes to set up my infrastructure. So like I said, actually I even wrote the ones to bring it down, which is basically the same thing as with an action delete. So the interesting thing here is it really feels and it looks like a regular chef cookbook. And once you learn one of them, you know them all. Like I said, all of them use the same authentication style mechanism, and for that we have the DOF credential. And you define a resource, which in this case here I'm calling mycred, and everywhere else in the cookbook you notice that I have a credential mycred. It's important that you can have multiple credentials. If you have a sophisticated cookbook and you want to use different permissions for different things, you can have any number of them. Obviously here I'm using a single credential for everything. Another important thing is scopes. Scopes is a way for you to limit, kind of like in Unix when you drop from root to a regular user. My account, it's owner. It can destroy or change anything. But in this case, I only want to deal only with the compute. You see, this cookbook, if I run and try to do anything DNS, will fail because I said this credential is limited to compute only. The reason is, in this first round, I'm not touching DNS. And normally, you're not going to touch your DNS until you run your testing, you run through your pipeline and make sure. So, for example, if I'm writing this for a production system, I would only put the compute for the test project where, let's say, my Jenkins or whatever your favorite CI is, be able to track. Once this is certified and put in production, then you can run another cookbook, let's say with DNS or whatever other service you want to make official, to make sure. The thing is, this is not a security feature as in hackers. The account is already root, it already can do anything. Like I can just go here, remove these scopes and do anything. The important thing here is accidental changes, like a bug in this cookbook doesn't take my system down.
So, can't bleed out.
Exactly. So the second, like this cookbook has basically three sections. The first section is the authentication. The second section is where I define the resources from GCP that I need. The reason we define them here is because we want to make sure they are available and ready, and if you need to configure them, that's your chance to do so. So here, for the sake, again, of simplicity, I'm using the default network that comes when I create my project. But if I needed to configure my own network, I can just start putting them here. And for all those resources, there is ample documentation on the supermarkets that explain every single setting of every single resource. So now that I have my basic default things from GCP, I'm going to actually create the resource I need for this. Like I said, I need a static IP address, so I can register that with the DNS. Here I'm calling whatever the machine name -IP. It's just an ID that gets uniquely identifying this machine. So if we go here to external IP addresses and refresh, oh, it's already there. So you see here my IP address. And it's saying it's connected to this machine, right? So this is the way you can confirm. You can also automate testing with that if you need to see how they go. After I define that, I can now create my machine itself. So in this case, I'm using a single machine, but we have the means for you to create multi-machine load balance applications. There is something called managed instance groups that you can use for that. Like I said, for this kickstart, I may create just one machine. So, and I do that, surprise, using a resource that defines a machine. And here I'm saying, hey, it's a machine with one core. I'll have my disk with 50 gigs. As you see here, my numbers. I can here on line 77, I can say, hey, I'm going to use a vanilla CentOS. This is what I said. I'm starting from scratch. If you want to create your own images to speed it up process or to do more complex setup offline, you can. But I don't want to bring anything, take like those cooking shows that, oh, they can then bring it, here's the plate already done. So here, all the doughs make from scratch. So on line 87, I'm defining the IP address that I locate above. You see these things in quotes is actually the name. I don't know what the IP is yet, and I will let Google and Chef figure that out.
I just want to jump in real fast and mention that as you were looking through these cookbooks, not only just this webinar cookbook, but if you look through the actual release cookbooks, there are examples inside of there with ample documentation around it too, where you can see how all of this was wired together. So you can easily take the examples and copy pasta what you need to be able to glue up what you do, and then you will have it in a repeatable, consistent manner.
Well, actually, you ought me here because that's exactly what I did. So all the example recipes that every cookbook have that exercise every single resource that exists in GCP are actually tested. So it's not that there is some documentation that goes out of date. Every single recipe, every single example that's put together actually in automated fashion is actually ran. So what I did really here was I grabbed the address recipe to tell us I grabbed the news recipe and I'm good to go. Right. So because I want to make this a little more configurable, I'm using metadata to pass data to the machine so the machine can do things by itself. So that's this block from 102 to 116, where this data will be available by the metadata server. So this is dynamic. So when the machine boots up, the machine can access this data.
Hey, Nelson, that line 106 right there looks relatively familiar.
Oh, yeah. So this is the startup script that creates and bootstraps the whole thing. So this script is also available in the GitHub if anyone wants to see.
But this is also the information that if you saw back on the website, it is actually the exact same thing. So that metadata was declared inside the recipe where Ojai was able to figure out where that was and report back to that. So as you can see, there's the connection right there. So as you are making more and more advanced recipes and code, you can grow that from there, which allows for that, for lack of a better term, connective tissue.
Yeah, another thing is, because I want this to be an HTTP server, an easy way that GCP comes shipped by default, you can change it, make more sophisticated, is I apply a tag called HTTP server, which opens port 80 on the firewall, but you can do that by other means, including using the gcompute_firewall chef type for that. So now that once I ran this first recipe, I got my machine. So the only thing here to go through is the second recipe that sets the DNS, which again, I imagine will look very similar. Now I'm configuring another product, but surprise, surprise, I define my credential. Now I have a second scope, which the DNS here on line 36. I still need the compute because I want to ask the compute API what's the IP address I need to register. So I could have put compute read only. I will change that later because I don't need to write or change anything on compute. So on line 40, like I said, I'm creating making sure the zone exists. If the zone didn't exist, it would be created, but it's already there. It's actually line 40 doesn't do anything in this run. And then the lines that matter starts at 52, where I actually define my www record. And as you see here, on line 58, I'm actually asking GCP to go fetch for me the IP address with the same name as we created on the other recipe, and grab that value and put as a target here, and then call the DNS API and register for me. So if you go to the DNS that was empty before and refresh, we can now see that same IP address showcasing here, right? So this makes very easy for you to bring it up, and like I said, bring it down. I'm not going to go too much in details on down, but I just want to show quickly. Again, we'll show dramatic and familiar. But the only difference here is I'm going to put action delete. Instead of action create. So line 46 and line 53 gets rid of the machine and the IP address. We can actually run this. So this will get rid of my DNS. And obviously after this, the app is dead because it will not work anymore. But if we go here, see green there saying that. But if you go back here to the DNS and refresh, it should be gone. And it's gone. My machine is still there. So, and I want to get rid of the machine as well. Like I said, I'm just going to run the same thing. And in hindsight, I should have made another recipe to suicide the whole machine. But I don't have a recipe to destroy the admin machine itself. But if I could have run that, the machine would just kill itself. And now, if I go back to my this here, refresh, you see the machine is now being deleted. Right? So in a nutshell, that's what we can do, like, as a getting started. So obviously there is way more to it than this. You can do, like I said, things with images, with loading balancers. You can use SQL. Coming soon, you'll be able to use Spanner and other Google products. You can do storage. You can do containers. So there is a container, Google Compute Container Engine Cookbook, where you can configure your cluster. Then you can use the already available in the supermarket Kubernetes Cookbooks to actually manage your application. So we do the management for you of your container environment. Like I said, all of these things we use to do this webinar is available in the GitHub. We are going to put that in the webinar link as well, so you can just click on it. And we strongly suggest that you take GCP for a spin. You can get that for free and see for yourself how easy it is. Like, really, if you want to redo everything I did, the only thing you need to do other than installing the cookbook is actually change the project, because it's pointing to our project. You just point to the name of your own project. So just so this.
And your service account.
Yeah, and a service account, right? So just.
But it really is that straightforward. And we've spent a lot of good time writing up the documentation, so you can do this at home to see the power of what we have written. We've also added test kitchen support to the MyApp cookbook also, which we didn't really talk about during this webinar, but there is documentation around that too that allows you to use the typical chef workflow with this code. We have chef spec support and integration tests and even inspect tests to validate everything's the way we expect it to be. So it is a full-fledged story.
Yeah, so it's just so we can close that. So if you see, every resource has a project, like line 37, 43, that points to our demonstration project, you just change it to your own. And like JJ said, you change your credential to point to your own service account, and you're good to go. You can just start getting the resources set up right away. Yeah, we want to thank everybody for the time they spent with us. I hope this was useful. So if you have any questions, in hindsight, we should have put that link over there. There is an email called chef-on-gcp@google.com. I'm going to put that link in the webinar at the end as well, where if you have any questions on how to use this, all those cookbooks are also available on GitHub, so if you find any issues, feel free to file them there, and we'll take a look and try to fix them as soon as you can.
We should also mention that on the Chef Community Slack, if you're not part of it, you should join it. We have a Google channel in there that Nelson, I, and Alex, who was unfortunately not able to join us this morning, yes, it's the morning, that we are there listening and waiting to continue with these conversations in real time. So we want to make this delightful. We want to work with you on this. So hopefully you come out to talk to us.
Yeah, and if you have any suggestions on how to improve the whole experience, feel free to let us know. So that is what we're striving to make these as easy as you can, as powerful as you can. So,
well, thank you, Nelson.
Right, thanks, CJ, for the time, and thanks everybody for listening. And I hope to see you guys on GCB soon.
Bye.